What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today, we're talking World Cup qualifying. We had the U.S. men's national team, we had Mexico, and we're also going to talk LA Galaxy. There's a lot going on. Last 6 games of the season for the LA Galaxy. A lot of stuff going on in this international break. We also had a couple MLS teams that helped out the LA Galaxy by not winning. So we'll get into that as well. But before we get into that, let me introduce my guests. We got Galaxy guy Chris Maldonado with us once again. Of course, Alex Ruiz. We came matching today. Alex, you're wearing the Dodgers. I'm wearing the Dodgers jersey. You guys can see there. Chris, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Despite this international break, there was still some MLS games to watch on TV, and we had a lot of those results go our way, thankfully. So for now, we have some breathing room, which
Yeah,
is
no,
good.
that's good. Alex, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, lots of sports going on this whole weekend, so I've been definitely entertained. And yeah, results going the way for the Galaxy is pretty exciting. Yet a couple MLS games in the international break. I don't know why, but it's a little weird, but it's whatever. It was cool. But yeah, so far everything's doing pretty good. Hoping for Max Scherzer to have a good outing tonight. The Dodgers are currently playing right now, so
Yeah,
hopefully
no,
all goes well.
that's what we need. I know the Dodgers. I should also mention the Dodgers is a big day for the Dodgers as well. So I mean, we're all hoping, we're all rooting they get against the arch enemies, the SF Giants. So we'll see what happens there. But it's looking promising. But yeah, let's talk about the World Cup qualifying. I mean, U.S. men's national team. Should we start with them? I guess we should start with them because it was not looking pretty. They ended up losing 1-0 to Panama. I felt like this game was going to be hard no matter what, even if they did still have all their starters. I saw when Mexico went down there and they struggled with that. But then when I noticed that there was going to be 7 lineup changes, I was kind of surprised about that because I think what Weston McKennie wasn't going. Obviously, we already know about Gio Reyna, Pulisic, and all these different things. But I think to adjust the lineup so much and not start Pepe and all these other players that had started, I think that was a cause for concern, and I didn't feel confident in the U.S. men's national team because I felt like that was too much of a change. Chris, what were your thoughts on that? Obviously, not a good result, but what were your thoughts on some of those changes?
I think that the U.S. men's national team, despite not having their A team out there, they still had a pretty damn good squad out there. They should have had a result from this. This is a Panama team that is honestly, if you match them player by player, they're inferior to the U.S. men's national team at every position. I mean, you had guys out there that are veteran U.S. men's national teams players like DeAndre Yedlin has been playing in Europe for what, about 5-6 years now, playing top-notch soccer. You had Timothy Weah up there, right? His team just won last year the French Championship. He won it with Lille. This is a guy that's young, talented, exciting. You had Yunus Musa out there, another young, exciting prospect. Uh, this team should have had a result in Panama. There's no excuse for it, whether this was the B team. Even our B team should be better than Panama. So, inexcusable.
Yeah, no, look, there's a lot of things that happen also with that. It's also obviously CONCACAF. We're no secret. It's the environment that you go into it, right? That's the biggest thing, and the hostility that goes into it. Alex, what were your thoughts on all these lineup changes that Greg Berhalter made? And obviously, it did not pan out the way that he expected.
Yeah, personally for me, I thought it was really stupid. And on Twitter, I saw something Hercules Gomez said that the U.S. kind of had some arrogance, I guess, when it came to making all these lineups. Like Chris mentioned, right? Most of these Panama players are very inferior when it comes to where they play, right? You're switching out 7 players, and you're kind of putting in that B squad of this current roster, hoping that your players are well rested for the game in Columbus against Costa Rica. So I thought it was kind of weird that they did that. Brendan Aronson, Pepe, you don't take them out while they're hot. You keep riding the hot hand until it slowly cools down. And I don't understand why Berhalter did that. The midfield was a little bit different. We saw the trio of McKennie, Adams, and Yunus Musa play against Jamaica, and they all did well. And then you had Leggett and Acosta and Yunus Musa again. Leggett and Acosta were all right, nothing too great, but I thought the midfield was perfect, and Greg shouldn't have tinkered with it at all. But I understand you have to rotate players, and especially Tyler Adams, who is an injury-prone player. Overall, very disappointing, and almost 4 years to the day that the U.S. men's national team lost to Trinidad and Tobago. You
Yeah.
kind of got that vibe from this game where the U.S. just didn't have that fight in them. The players, coaches, there was just no, I guess, second win for them to try to get a point or heck, even try to win the game at all in the second half. So, as a U.S. men's national team fan, it was extremely disappointing to watch this go down on Sunday.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I think also like everybody let him have it. You had Hercules Gomez, you had all the guys from CBS, obviously Twitter is not shy, but yeah, I think everything the look, Craig Berhalter is gonna get scrutinized no matter what. But I think when he does these drastic changes, and you have Pepe who's young, he's hot, he's rolling. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not start him? Like, it's not like he's 34 years old and holding on to his legs. This kid can
Right.
still run. I'm pretty sure he could play 3 games in 7 days. He's done it in the MLS. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
nothing new. It's nothing new for him, and I think that was the biggest shock for me. Your only offensive real threat these last couple of games, everybody's on the Pepe train. You don't hop off the train when you're rolling. And when I saw that, I was like, I don't think they can win. Not because I don't think they have the talent. It's just too much turnover to bring in all these players. And yeah, you want to get them rested, but like you don't in some of these games you don't get a second chance to get points, right? Even if you walked out with the tie, a tie would have been perfect. This is what you wanted. A tie
Yeah.
was definitely feasible. Obviously losing is not an option. Winning, I mean, that's the icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? But like obviously you walk out with the tie, you're happy. And with everything that you have there, I think this is why Greg Berhalter, I think sometimes overthinks these things. Oh, we need to get these guys rested and this and that. I mean, Weston McKinney's not playing, a couple other players not playing. You're gonna have those guys ready by Columbus. Why try to rest them and stuff? And things. You need to get all these points while you can. And if that means you need to play them all 3 games, I think it's so be it. It's obviously if there's injury concerns, I understand that, but Pepe is hot. Like you said, Pepe is
Yeah.
way too hot right now for you to be sitting him and bringing him in the 60 something minute. Out of desperation and stuff. So I just didn't get it. I think this is what really frustrates a lot of U.S. men's national team fans because it's like you had something going good and you try to stop the train, which it doesn't really make sense. And the way the momentum and everything how they played, everybody talked about it. It didn't look like they wanted to win this game. Yeah, they're out there fighting, but the way they perceived and showed it on the pitch, even I think what was it Clint Dempsey was talking about, like they wouldn't even show to the ball, and I wonder, it's like maybe it might have just got to them, you do. I think maybe Greg Berhalter needs to do, or he definitely needs to do a better job when it comes to this. Chris, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, listen, when you look at the stats on paper for this match, the US men's national team got outplayed in just about every stat. There's only two stats that the US men's national team did better at, and that was offsides and shots off target.
Oh,
Pa-
that's a big thing too. The shots on, yep, the shots on
Panama
target.
had far more accurate passes. They created more chances. They created twice as many chances as the U.S. men's national team. That's inexcusable. They had more accurate passes. They had far more total shots than the U.S. men's national team. Defensively, Panama was better. You look at all the stats down the list, and the U.S. men's national team got outplayed. And these are guys. These are guys, right? You have guys in there like Sebastian Lletget, who's a veteran. You had guys in there like Matt Turner, who's one of the best goalkeepers right now in North America, right? Shaq Moore, Walker Zimmerman, you name it. You go down the list. These are guys that should have shown up and they should have at least got a point from this. It's a game on the road. It's Panama. It's not the easiest place to play, but at least a point. And to me, when I look at the stats, it's inexcusable.
Yeah, when I saw Panama score that goal, it was amazing for them. They knew how much that meant. When it was, I think it was Jazzy Sardis when he hit it. It was an own goal, but you saw the celebration in that, and like once that goal came in, I was like, it's gonna be hard for the U.S. to score because seeing the game, you don't really see that much life, and even when Pepe came in, it just didn't seem like he was in rhythm. Um, I want to read a comment here from Justin Hall. He said, "U.S. men's national team has a beta mentality when they play Concacaf teams. Crazy, world beaters, and they have a chip on their shoulders. Play Panama, and they play like they're the 75th in the world." Interesting comment, but yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. That, Alex. Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, addressing that comment. Yeah, it's basically the U.S. kind of has the case of playing down to your opponent, really, or up to your opponent, right? We've seen the games against Mexico, 2 finals. They played up to Mexico's par and were able to keep up, even though they went down in the first game, and they were able to keep stay competitive in the Gold Cup final. And then here you have, I think they played Honduras uh, the last World Cup cycle, and I think El Salvador. I'm not entirely correct, but they played down to their opponents, really, right? Had a horrible first half against Honduras. They were able to luckily turn it around in the first half. And then here you have them going up against Panama at away, and they play down to their level. So it's really disappointing to see. No team in all of sports is going to be considered elite if you play down to your competition. That's something you try to avoid as much as you can. And really, I think just we need an American coach, but Greg just wasn't the guy. Get somebody like Greg Vanney, Peter Vermees, people who have experience, and I think they are able to manage a locker room a lot better. Because to me, Greg seems very, very passive, and that's not something I like when it comes to my coach. He seems very passive, not much emotion so much. You see it a couple of times, but it's not all the time there. When I look at Greg Vanney, this whole season, yeah, he's able to talk to his guys in the locker room, able to control that, show some emotion when it's needed. Same thing with Peter Vermees. He's a veteran with Sporting Kansas City, knows the ins and outs of MLS. He's able to show his emotion and kind of lead his team to play better than what they are on paper. Because for many years, Sporting Kansas City didn't really have a superstar, but they're still an elite team in MLS and always competitive. And I think that's really the DNA of this USA team. A lot of players that are good, not considered elite to, world standards, but they got some fight in them. They got some grit in them. And I think Peter Vermees would be the perfect manager to put in at that position instead of Greg Berhalter, somebody who I think is way too passive when it comes to managing this squad of players.
Yeah, I think just not even just managing the players, just handling certain situations too. I think even the Weston McKennie thing, obviously we know that's already passed, but I think that could have been handled different or more internally. Because the only reason we found out about that is because they told us, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think it could have been handled differently, not without the whole media finding out and all the fiasco, but we'll see. Regardless, I think Greg Berhalter did not do a good job here, but I think he's still going to be the coach. So like something big is going to have to happen for Greg Berhalter to not be the coach. Unfortunately, he's going to have to keep losing or losing games, which is not a good thing for him to be out. But yeah, I agree. He's way too passive for the U.S. men's national team. Just certain things and certain adjustments I don't think have really worked out for him. Let's quickly talk about Mexico. Mexico, the leader of the group, they got 11 points. They beat Honduras 3-0. I watched that game, but it wasn't like a definite win. They played.
It wasn't
sloppy.
convincing.
It wasn't convincing. There you go. It wasn't convincing because they could have closed out Honduras in the first half, but they didn't. They didn't finish. Chucky Lozano had a couple opportunities. Raul Jimenez had a couple opportunities. Tegatito at times had opportunities. I know you watched the game, Alex. What were your thoughts on Mexico?
First thing first, Chucky Lozano is overrated. I gotta say it. Like the guy can't finish. He can't finish. He had an easy header earlier in the game.
I wouldn't say he's overrated.
He's overrated. If you consider him, he's not even
overrated.
He's overrated.
He's the second best player, in my opinion, in CONCACAF. But tell me why you feel he's overrated.
I feel he's overrated because he's just a speedy guy who's a streaky finisher. And there's so many players across the world that are just like that. Speedy guys and just streaky finishing. Like Alphonso Davies, I think we can all collectively agree is the best player in this region, right?
Of course.
Alphonso Davies, he's proved it in Europe and with Bayern. Second, I definitely would go Raul Jimenez. I think he's one of the best number 9s, top 10 number 9s in all the world. And then number 3, I'd probably go with Gio Reyna. I think he's better than Lozano.
No, you're wrong on that.
No Gio Reyna's better than Chucky Lozano. I'm sorry to say it.
This is a good conversation. Go ahead, but I completely disagree.
Here's my case for why Gio Reyna should be ahead of Chucky Lozano, okay? So Gio Reyna, he hasn't – I guess you can say he's very movable. You can play him out on the wing as a midfielder and stuff like that. And I think his greatest asset is definitely his playmaking ability. He's not going to score all the goals. I know that. But what he does in that midfield, connecting from the midfield to the attack, to then trying to play as a number 10 at times, to then also being able to, finish in his opportunities that he's given. Because let's be honest, he's not being put as a forward so many times. The opportunities he does have to finish, he does finish them. He proved that this summer with the Nations League. He had a goal there. And honestly, I just think Chucky Lozano, just because he had that one goal against Germany, he's kind of been overrated. with Napoli, he's been off and on. He's okay, but like I said, there's so many players that have the same qualities as him. Very fast, but very streaky shooters.
Okay, I would never put Gio Reyna over Chucky Lozano. That's just straight up disrespect, Alex. You need to watch some clips, yeah, young man. But like Christian Pulisic, okay, that's a different story. But you can't tell me that Gio Reyna is better than Christian Pulisic, right? Without a doubt.
No, yeah,
I would. I
I
know,
definitely put Pulisic over Lozano. I
this is my
definitely do, but I just think
yeah,
that
but
when it,
this is my point. The best player in the U.S. men's national team is Christian Pulisic. I would put it'd be the top four. Whether you obviously you could put Christian Pulisic above Chucky Lozano, but Gio Reyna is not even the best player in the U.S. men's national team. Gio Reyna
no,
is injured right
I
now. Gio Reyna only scored one goal.
I think what
at
he's trying to
Nation
say
League.
is that he rates Gio Reyna and Pulisic above Lozano.
yeah, that's what I mean. I don't
I
mean
know,
I think they're
I get
great.
what you're saying there, but he has not had the same impact that Chucky Lozano has. I agree with you on the club level, 100%. It's the same thing, but Gio Reyna has not had the same impact with Bayern, with Dortmund, with the U.S. men's national team just yet. Nations
Mexico's
League, Nation League don't really count because we're not talking. If you're doing a World Cup qualifying, you're doing that against
But it's still a
Panama and
competitive
Panama.
match because Chucky
I
Lozano
I
hasn't
agree with
scored in a
you.
competitive match since 2019.
He scored today, yesterday,
No, but before yesterday, he hadn't scored
but
in a competitive match.
Did you see how he got injured in Concacaf?
No, I'm not
I mean,
talking.
Gold
Yeah,
Cup.
I know, but this is 2, 3 years ago. In 2019, it was another game. He scored in a couple friendlies, but those aren't competitive matches. At least Gio Reyna scored in that competitive match.
this
I'm
is
willing
going
to
to go
put up.
on all night.
No. I'm willing to put on a bet because I just don't see. I just don't. I like Gio Reyna's talent, but there's no way Chucky Lozano is coming back from a serious injury. This is only his second game back, and for you to put a player that hasn't had that type of impact, like I would put all my chips in on Chucky Lozano to just because he's proven it. He's proven it in the World Cup. He's proven it to be effective. The same thing with Ochoa, right? Ochoa will be great with the national team and okay with the club team. That's not just the Mexican national team. That's players all over the world. You know what I'm saying? But I don't believe Chucky Lozano is below Gio Reyna. Christian Pulisic, that's a different story, but not Gio Reyna. That's
But
just
it's
my
close
take.
at least. It's not like it's a completely
No,
like
it's to
cold
me.
take.
To me, it's a drastic. There's a drastic difference there.
I still think
From
Gio Reyna's a more complete player than Chucky Lozano.
He's
I
not
would agree.
impactful. But Chris, let's get your thoughts on this.
So the thing, going back to the, we could talk about players here all day, right? So
I know. You were supposed to either go Gio Reyna or not.
I'm biased. I'm a U.S.
blue or
men's
red
national
pill?
team guy. I'll tell you, it was Gio Reyna, right? But we can talk about that all night.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the match: Mexico versus Honduras.
Oh yeah, we were
Listen-
talking about that. My bad.
Listen, Central
Alex
American
took us down a rabbit hole. That
The
I was
rabbit
like,
hole.
Wait a minute. We got to clear things up.
Central American teams are notorious. They're famous for crumbling every time they play Mexico. Every time a Central American team plays Mexico, they always crumble. It's like a psychological thing, right? Mexico has been the giant in CONCACAF for decades. So that was definitely not the exception here. Honduras was just demolished statistically by Mexico. Mexico held 76% of possession. They had 26 total shots, whereas Honduras had only 5. They had 21 chances created. Honduras had 3. You go down the list. We're talking about tripling their stats, if not quadrupling, right? But you look at the scoreline 3-0. Most fans will say, hey, that's satisfactory to me. It's a nice win, 3-0. You look at these stats and you look at that stacked Mexico team, that should have been a 5-goal game easily. But like you guys were saying, a lot of those chances weren't being finished by Mexico. And that's where the
Chucky
problem
Lozano.
is. It leaves a very bad taste in a lot of Mexico fans because they know that this team can get to something higher. They can aspire something bigger. They have the players to do it. I would even say they have the coaching staff to do it. But for some reason, this Mexico team isn't there yet. They're not getting to their peak.
I know, but look, you got to understand, 2 players are just coming back. Chucky Lozano, Raul Jimenez. And they're doing this, and they're the number 1 team in CONCACAF right now. So yesterday's game was not convincing. To me, it was a terrible game by Mexico. Even though they won 3-0, you never say
Sure.
that. It's almost kind of being I don't want to sound kind of ignorant, just say that, but it's like it should have been like 5-6-0 because of all these opportunities. But because Chucky Lozano, Raul Jimenez couldn't finish, by that my perspective of them doesn't change because I've seen them do it at the highest level. To me, it's just a rhythm thing for them. They just need to
Mhm.
get back in rhythm. 2 games in, it's these guys players are world class. Chucky Lozano scored a goal. Scored a beautiful goal. I think you saw the goal, Alex.
Yeah, I saw it.
Beautiful. It was a beautiful goal. After, but yeah, he should have had a hat trick. He should have had a hat trick in this game. But just because he didn't have a hat trick, by no means do I feel like his players below. It's just they just got to get him more in rhythm, and they haven't dropped points. They've gotten a point everywhere they played. I don't even think they lost or they tied against Canada. Canada is a tough team. But I don't think they've lost just yet. But 11 points, and you just got Chucky Lozano and Raul Jimenez just back. And then obviously, we're gonna see now the pressure's off of what's his name, Funes Mori. He's gonna be a great option off the bench. I think all the pressure's coming off of him because we know Raul Jimenez is there, so he's gonna be a great substitution. I think you wanted to see more from Mexico yesterday, and yeah, the 3-0 victory was not convincing, but I think it's more about rhythm. But I think the positive thing about this is that they're getting the points. The not so thing is not finishing, but I think that could be a different story. Because the next round, I think they're going to face U.S. for sure in November sometime. So that's gonna be an interesting game. I'm getting looking forward to it. I hope Gio Reyna's there. I know Chucky
Oh, I hope
Lozano's
so
gonna be
too. I
there.
hope they both play.
Oh,
I hope they both put on a show, bro.
and if I'm at the game, we're gonna watch the game together, Alex, and we'll see.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about.
Wait, can I say one more thing about Mexico, real quick?
Hold on.
I,
I need to get to this comment. Justin Haas says, I'm biased to Pulisic, Reina, obviously, but I think our young players mostly have too much to prove where we can't even have the combo. Thank you, Justin. In a club that plays in Pulisic and club play, it's obviously Pulisic and Davis both have direct impact and knockout play. Completely agree. I just don't think Gio Reyna is there yet. Once
mean,
he's
Gio Reyna's
there,
putting up some decent numbers at
but
Dortmund. If you watch
he's not
Dortmund, you
doing
can see
it
he's
in
very
Champions League.
impactful.
He's not doing it in the big stages just yet. Once he does that, then I'll be like, I have no problem being like, yeah. But he's just.
But I mean,
not
the
there
same
yet.
thing can be said with Chucky Lozano. What has he done in Europe? What has he done in Champions League? Nothing. To me, Chucky Lozano's like Odell Beckham Jr. Had one good moment and is gonna live off of it. Had the catch,
he's
had the
not.
goal. I feel for the rest of his career, it's gonna be like that.
No, I don't think
Gonna
so.
have one good moment, and that's
the
gonna be it.
biggest. He's the biggest star in the Mexican national team. I would put him over. He's the most liked player overall. He always puts his heart. Maybe he didn't finish, but the heart is there. You can. That's one thing about Chucky Lozano. He'll play injured. Obviously, fracture in his face. Everything. That's a whole different story. But he'll play injured. He's the face to me. He's the face of the Mexican national team just because of what he's done. Obviously, but he's proven, and he has to continue proving it, and he will. And we'll see during this CONCACAF thing. We'll see. And if you change your perspective, just remember this conversation, Alex.
We shall see it. Like they
I'm
both have
trying
lots to prove. They both have lots to prove. But anyway, getting to my point.
Go to your point.
I
Go
don't
to your point.
understand why. Or for me, I'm still in the side after that tie to Canada. I don't want Tata Martino in managing this team, because if you Tata Martino is going to give you the same thing every Mexican manager has done before, a round of 16 exit in the World Cup. If you wanted that, you should have kept Juan Carlos Osorio.
We'll have to see.
The conversation is, what is Mexico's, or what's their goal for this World Cup? Is it to make it to a semifinal? Is it to make it somewhere?
Any country is to win the World Cup, right? But if we look at, you also got to understand that even the U.S., right? The U.S., whoever goes to the World Cup, you wanna win the World Cup or have a chance to win the World Cup, right? But if we compare them to the clubs in Europe, then by no means do you compare them, right? But
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, I don't understand, like, why you should not have kept Juan Carlos Osorio, because you're gonna get the same result with both managers.
He didn't want to stay.
With both managers either way, or any other manager, really. I mean, I understand. You
can't predict the future just now.
I'm not. I'm just saying. I think that this Mexico team is on the decline. They're this, I guess, golden generation, if you want to call it. It's all over the past. They played Guardado against Canada like he was like still 28. I don't understand that. Luckily, they started Cordova in his position as well. So I'm kind of hoping that, because Mexico in general is a very traditionalist country, but I'm hoping they move on to some of their younger players at some point, or sort of feature them a lot more. Because if you're going to play Guardado, Herrera, all these minutes, Tecatito Corona, who again is overrated, hasn't played well all year.
I would say that.
You know what this Mexico team needs? You know what this Mexico team really needs? They need to call up Cuauhtemoc Blanco again to the national team.
No, they're gonna get an LA Galaxy guy, Julian Araujo, and I'm very interested to see Julian Araujo because that's
Well,
the
let's
thing we
see.
should talk
Jorge
about.
Sanchez had a goal, so the
Well,
competition's
he
going to
didn't
be.
play. He didn't play. He didn't play.
No, I'm talking about
yesterday.
Canada. About Canada, Jorge Sanchez had the goal.
Yeah, for Mexico, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't start for Mexico against Honduras, though. But I think that right spot opportunity is there for Julian Araujo. So I think that's gonna be interesting. What happens? Look, we got way too much into the rabbit hole. If we were
I could
World
have
Cup.
this conversation all day.
That's good. That's good. I can too, but we need to get Chris in here. All right, Chris. Let's talk about the LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy was winless in 9 games. I'm running out of fingers almost to count how many games they still haven't won yet.
It's really bad.
Started hot. Doesn't look good. I think they're still in 6th place, I believe. Even so, the thing that helped the LA Galaxy, right, was Vancouver didn't win. I didn't think Vancouver was going to win their game. Minnesota, I think started off the game hot, but then Colorado bounced back and beat them. So they didn't move. They got help from the MLS, the other clubs. What are your thoughts on obviously this international break? Jonah Dos Santos didn't play, so he'll be ready to go. Sebastian Lletget got a couple minutes in and stuff. He also played for them. But what are your thoughts on this international break and these final 6 games for the Galaxy?
There's a lot to unpack there, man. Final 6 games of the season for the LA Galaxy. They're not entering in the best shape possible. They're limping into these last 6 games. 39 points on their table right now. There are 18 points possible left for them to earn. And we actually broke these numbers down yesterday on our show. We gave them the best possible scenario, our best possible guess based off of number and statistics. And I won't break that down here because it's going to take forever and it's going to bore your fans.
Tell us the number. You can just tell us.
I'll give you the overview, right? So we did a very, very conservative estimate where we gave them the benefit of the doubt on a lot of these games. 39 points now out of those 18 possible points left. We predict that the LA Galaxy will end the season with 47 points, which
So
if you look back,
if we do my math, how many points is that? What is that? 39. Did you give him 16? What is it?
No. So just a quick calculation, right? Yeah. So that's going to be.
You want to give him 8 points?
That's going to be 8 points. That's going to be 8 points left out of the 18 points, right? Which still doesn't guarantee them a playoff spot, by the way, because historically in MLS, most teams that qualify for playoffs qualify with 50 points or more. So the Galaxy is going to be shy.
So you gave them 2. What was it? 2 wins? Only 2 wins, or is it a bunch of ties?
It's a couple ties and a couple wins. So definitely we're predicting that the game against Portland at home will not be a win. We gave them the benefit of the doubt on that, and we said that it might be a point for the Galaxy. It might be a tie. Out of the games from Houston and Dallas, we're predicting that that's going to be maybe possibly 3 points. They're definitely not going to win both of those games, especially because they're on such like back-to-back, basically, just 3 days between, right? Almost no rest. Sporting Kansas City is a loss. Sporting Kansas City at home is a powerhouse. There's no way the Galaxy goes and gets a result there. The following game after that is Seattle at home in Seattle. There's no way the Galaxy beats Seattle or even gets a point from them. Seattle is just too hot right now. They're the best team in the league. And then the final game is the Galaxy versus Minnesota at home. The last couple seasons have left a really bad taste in Galaxy fans' mouth. We've kind of pooped the bed when it comes down to the final game of the season on decision day, especially if there's a lot of pressure on us, which I do believe we're going to have a lot of pressure that final game. We can predict that also being possibly best case scenario, a tie at best. So in total, it's gonna amount to about 47, 48 points for the Galaxy, which would leave them under that 50-point line, which means no playoffs for the Galaxy this season, unfortunately.
Wait. So you're already predicting it that you guys aren't gonna make it. Alex, give us your thoughts. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's entirely possible, to be honest. Chris mentioned it, right? Like usually in most leagues, right? Like I know for the Premier League, if you get at least 40 points, you're not going to be relegated. I know that. And if Chris, finds out the threshold that there is for the playoffs, I won't believe him. If that's 50 points, if the Galaxy can't get there, it's very likely, like 50-50, that they won't make the playoffs, especially at that close of a margin. The West is always, conference is going to go down to decision day. And fortunately, we're not playing Houston because they've screwed us over the last couple of decision days or the past 3 years.
Yeah.
They've done that before. So the decision day is going to be against Minnesota, and I know Minnesota is going to be fighting for the playoff lives that day. So that might be one of if not the biggest game of the entire year. It's entirely possible. Both teams could be the winner could get the last playoff spot in the West. I could totally see that happening. I don't think the Galaxy get a home playoff game this year. I just don't think they get it, and I don't think they deserve it as well.
Because they got to get a fourth, right? They would have to.
Yeah, they need to get to fourth place in order to have a playoff game.
So if we go with fourth place, let me just read off to the people that listen to the pod. Portland's at 46 points. Real Salt Lake's at 39 points with fifth place. Sixth place, the Galaxy with 39 points. And Minnesota in seventh place with 38 points. So yeah, it's a tight race, and I'm surprised Minnesota weren't able to at least get a tie or a positive result against Colorado, which really helped the Galaxy because they didn't move. But they've been slowly on the decline since they were in third place for so long, and they went to fourth, obviously now in sixth. They're definitely trending. So I mean, if 50 points is the mark, that's 11 points, and it's just there's no sign right now that you're seeing, and I think it would be such a disappointing if they weren't to make it. Now I don't want to get too far into that because we're not there just yet, and once we cross the road, whether they do make it or they don't make it, I think we'll have that conversation. But I think looking at these 6 games, if they can only if you're projecting that they can only get 8 points out of this, I think that's pretty low. Do
it this way, right? The Galaxy has 6 games left, 3 at home, 3 on the road. Okay, let's give them best possible scenario right now. They win all 3 home games, right? They win the game against Portland, they win the game against Dallas, and then they win the game against Minnesota, the final game of the season. That gives them 9 points. That still leaves them at 48, which is 2 points below that 50-point line. They could get the 9 points at home and then maybe get a draw on the road and get 9 points and 10 points and still end the season with 49 points, right? A point below that 50 line. So it's definitely Mount Everest at this point for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, let's talk about how a Galaxy could potentially fix these issues because it's definitely the defense. The defending, obviously, they struggle to score too. But Galaxy, how do the Galaxy fix this in these next 6 games?
Well, I guess for me, it would be kind of trying to find that magic, Ryan Revelson had when he first came to the Galaxy, right? Had that incredible bicycle goal against Portland. He was looking so comfortable out there. And then you kind of put Jonah Dos Santos next to him, and you kind of see his impact on the game kind of diminish a lot. And he's a very good player. He plays the center of the park very well. When you need him to play as a center back in case the team is caught on a counterattack, he will do that. Very versatile in the midfield. And I think as long as we're able to play to his strengths, we're going to have a chance because if our midfield starts clicking and, we're able to do these neat little passes here and there, our offense is going to finish it, whether it be, Cabral, Chicharito, whoever is up there in front. I think they'll at least be, if we give them chances, they'll be a finish at least half of them. And if that midfield plays well, then there's going to be a lot less pressure on that defense to really try to track back and recover for a lot of the portions of the game, which is what I feel happened a lot against LAFC. There was a lot of tracking back, especially when the Galaxy got caught in counters. And, unfortunately, LAFC didn't capitalize on those because LAFC could have won that game entirely. It was entirely possible they could have done that. And I think the Galaxy just need to kind of find a rhythm when it comes to their midfield because that's really the whole bulk of their issues.
Yeah, Chris, what are your thoughts? How can the Galaxy fix this? Right, win this in 9 games. They got 6 games left. They just need a game, right? They just need a game, and the game next home is this Saturday, is upcoming Saturday against Portland at home. It's not gonna be an easy game because Portland is above in the standings. So.
Portland is a really good team right now. They started the season off rough, but they're firing on all cylinders right now, right? The problems that I see with this LA Galaxy team is we talked about this last night on my show as well, are a lot of the same problems that we saw at the very beginning of the season that we saw from the get-go during that Miami game. A lot of this stuff hasn't been fixed. And to be honest with you, a lot of these problems have carried on from other seasons, right? It's just that there's very little change from what we're still having a hard time scoring goals. When you have your top goal scorer Javier Hernandez with 12 goals, and then the second highest goal scorer on your team is a center defensive midfielder who's only been with us for what, 10 games. I'm talking about Ryan Revelson, right? 5 goals. It blows my mind when that guy is your second highest goal scorer on the team, right? Kevin Cabral, he's a DP. He's a guy making big money, a guy that was brought on to be that second top goal scorer. He's only had 4 goals all season, right? The kid is a dud this season. And then you go down the list. People aren't scoring for this team. And I think it goes back to something that I've been preaching about for many, many years. You guys can go back to the subreddit. I've been kind of blue in the face saying the same
we ain't gonna
thing.
go that far back, but you can just tell us.
I'm going blue in the face saying this, but this team lacks creativity. They don't have a creative player that can create those plays for a very long time now. The closest we've been to that is Victor Vasquez. But if you're going to pin all your hopes on Victor Vasquez, a 34-year-old guy that basically didn't play for over a year before joining the LA Galaxy, if you're going to pin all your hopes on that guy who can't go 90 minutes, unfortunately, you're going to have a bad time. And we're seeing that, right? This team is still defending poorly. That's been the case now for what, 5 seasons? The defense is still terrible. We're leaking goals like crazy. There's a lot of possession with this team, but there's nothing being done with it. Our play is you get the ball in the midfield, the ball gets played back to the defense, and then when you have no outlet, they play to the wings or they play to the wing backs, and then they go and they do the long balls or they do the crosses. Right? It's the exact same style of play we saw with Guillermo Barros Esqueloto. It's the same style of play we saw with Siggy Smith. And the number one reason for that is because we don't have a creative midfielder in there, like a Carles Gil in New England or like a Nicolás Lodeiro for Seattle. We don't have that. So
I would just add, I think Christian Pavón was that guy last year, but he didn't have anybody, right? And he at times was that guy. Obviously, it was different. We played with Zlatan, but yeah, no, I would agree with you. That creative number 10 is kind of hard to find. Victor Vasquez with you, but if he only goes 60 minutes, games played 90 minutes. Comment in the chat, it says, Galaxy guy, where's your coffin for Galaxy? I like the one you had for LAFC.
I still have that somewhere here, man. Yeah, but look, the Galaxy front office, and I kind of get in trouble for saying this with them, but they try to pull the wool over our eyes, right? For such a long time now, we haven't had that true number 10 center attacking midfielder, creative playmaker for a very long time now. They gave us Giovanni Dos Santos, and they tried to tell us that that's what it was, but he wasn't. Giovanni Dos Santos was not that player. They tried to do that by giving Christian Pavón the number 10 on his jersey. Christian Pavón's not a true number 10. He's a winger that can create plays. He's a winger that is a strong offensive piece. He's not that guy you place as a number 10 that's going to be that creative force, that's going to play the balls, thread the balls through the middle. He wasn't that guy. So we don't have that. We haven't had it in a long time. Closest we've had is Victor Vasquez and Sacha Kljestan. And if you're pinning your hopes, again, I said it, if you're pinning your hopes on guys that are in their mid-30s to be that guy constantly, game after game, with the travel 90 minutes in MLS, you're going to have a bad time. And we're seeing that now. Teams have figured us out. We're easy to defend. That's why we're not scoring goals.
Well, I would always say, too, the disappointment of Kevin Cabral. My views starting to change because I was like, hey, let's give him I still think you got to give him 2 years, potentially. But, he's been disappointing. There's no way to put it about. Kevin Cabral has been disappointing. He's getting paid DP money, and he's been disappointing. He just doesn't show the heart. He didn't start against LAFC. I don't even think he didn't play against LAFC.
Nope.
And if Greg Vanney is noticing, like, yo, this guy's not showing the heart, and that's why I'm glad Greg Vanney benched him and didn't play him, because he needs to feel that. Like, yo, if you're not busting your ass for the team, you're not gonna play, and you don't care if you're DP. You need to prove it. And I'm glad he didn't play him. I know that probably sucked for Greg Vanney because I'm pretty sure that's Greg Vanney's guy. But he's trying to get something out of him, and if he's not going to be that guy, you need, you're going to need to depend on Kevin Cabral one way or another. If Galaxy make it to the playoffs, right? Not all the offensive lies on him, but a goal, a wing attack, or something like that. is going to rely on Kevin Cabral to
Right.
step up, and we'll see if that happens this year. I don't know what the future may whether they make the playoffs or not, but I do know one thing: Kevin Cabral needs to turn it around. He's getting paid way too much money for not giving
$1.4
not. I mean,
million
for this not
dollars.
yeah, not getting 1.4 million dollars to not do anything. Come on, bro, you got to step it up, Alex.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, say this. I think this 2021 season is gonna be the season of the what ifs, right, for the LA Galaxy, right? What if Javier Hernandez does not get injured and misses almost a third of the MLS season? Where could have the Galaxy ended up at the end of the season? They could have had a playoff place secured. What if Kevin Cabral, I remember in the game against Austin, scores a goal? What if he's not offside for that goal? Does that boost his confidence entering MLS? Same thing can be said about the goal against San Jose. Crazy individual play, dodging the San Jose defenders, but cleared out on the line. What if those goals go in? Do we see a different Kevin Cabral? Somebody who's more confident, somebody who feels more comfortable in the league? Do we see him, I guess, kind of become an elite player that the Galaxy were hoping he could be? What if we didn't have all these international breaks where it's so hard to get consistency with your players? Leggett, Dos Santos, Ryan's gone. Who else? All those other players are gone.
Efrain, yeah.
Efrain is gone. The Gold Cup kind of messing around with that. Same thing, Nations League, etc. All those tournaments as well. Also, too, what if we started the season, a little bit earlier, right? There was a whole, the season was delayed because of a new CBA, but because of that, they had to kind of squish in all these games. What if these players got more proper rest? I don't want to say use that as an excuse, but I mean, it's obviously going to recharge your batteries and kind of help you have a better mindset when it comes to these games instead of having them all in such a tight schedule. What if that happens? Do we see the players feel a little bit more relaxed and relieved about all that situation? And the final, I guess, what if is what if we took our time, really scouting a lot more players? Because Chris mentioned we really do need a number 10. Like Victor Vasquez is a great bridge player to put in that position, but who are we going to bring in this year? There's no number 10 that I can think of to bring in. Like for me, if I could have, the past 2 years could have brought in a player, my player would have been Minnesota's Emmanuel Reynoso. I think he's a
Right.
amazing player.
He's amazing
Player.
Yeah.
From Boca Juniors as well. From Boca
If
Juniors
you
as well.
remember this, Guillermo Barros Esqueloto in the offseason actually tried to acquire several number 10s, the guys that were directly attached to him in some form or another, either through Boca, through the Argentine league, or guys that he knew that were Argentinian players. And the LA Galaxy said, no, you're going to get Chicharito, right? So he got Chicharito. We needed a number 10, but we got Chicharito. Now, so before we get too ahead of ourselves here, I have to say this. The LA Galaxy, they've hamstrung themselves for such a long time now with salaries, right? They're the third top spending team in the league. They're paying ridiculous amounts of money to only a few amount of players. So we lack that depth, right? So when you guys talk about players leaving on international break or players getting injured, our bench is super thin compared to other teams that spread that TAM money, that general allocation money. They spread it across multiple players, and they have that depth. We don't do that. We spend almost $900,000 on Samuel Grandsir. I'm sorry to say, but that's overpaying for that guy.
I was gonna say Samuel Grandsir has been solid, but not for 900,000. Not for $1 million.
He's been a good support piece, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, he's not worth almost $1 million.
Look, we're paying $920,000 for Giancarlo Gonzalez. We had to get rid of that guy. That's almost $1 million on a guy that spent most of the season on the bench. You look at any other team in MLS and you give them $900,000, they're going to buy at least 3 starters with that amount of money, right? But here in LA, we spend
I would also say you kind of have to as well. I mean, even LAFC, they've not been smart in spending money, but I feel like on the players you value that much, like Grandsir, Cabral, they got you. You're never gonna know, right? Necessarily, but they got to be hits. A Cabral, like obviously, look, Chicharito, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever you say it. I think now the way he started the season, you're like, all right, he's worth the money and stuff like that. Obviously, with this injury, no one could predict that, right? So I think that's give and take. That's your superstar, right? That's give and take, and you still have, I think, one final year with them. If he can stay healthy through these final games and he's able to score, okay, that makes sense. Because that money's not necessarily coming from the roster. It's coming from the ownership, right? The DP money and all that stuff that they're
Right.
paying them, that comes straight from the owner.
Oh,
So that
yeah. The
doesn't really
DPs
affect
are a different thing. Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily affect it. But I'm with you on the TAM, on
Yeah.
Samuel Grandsir
Uh,
and Giancarlo. I think those were, but also look, Greg Vanny came in. Maybe Giancarlo was not his guy, and and I think it was a best work scenario. But also like the French player Sego Koulibaly started off hot, looked amazing. I was like, oh, he's gonna be paired up with Derek Williams, and then Sego Koulibaly looking like a USL player. Like
yeah.
I think that has been
Mike
the biggest
Siani
disappointment.
2.0.
Do you know what it is? I think Greg Vanny brought in the right type of players. You needed a number six. You needed a Ryan. You needed a center backs. He brought the pieces. Now the pieces, unfortunately, aren't working. He brought two wingers. He brought Grandsir, Kevin Cabral. Brought the center backs. Ryan, I think that was a great piece. He brought Jonathan Bond. I understand he's not going to hit on 17 new guys, but I
Right.
think he brought the right pieces. And the pieces have been disappointing.
Right.
Some of those pieces have been disappointing. So it's like with Greg Vanny, I see what he did, and he did it so quick. So I can't really. The only thing I could probably put him on is Kevin Cabral, but even that, I think you still need more time overall. But it's
Yeah.
like I looked at this he brought in the right pieces. Now if those pieces don't work, okay, that's a whole different thing.
In Major League Soccer, there's one truth to this league, and that is if you want to be a successful team in MLS, you have to hit on your DPs. You cannot build a team that is successful in MLS if your DPs are duds, right?
Yeah.
And this team has arguably two DPs that are absolute duds at this point, and one of them that's just not performing like he should, right? Javier Chicharito Hernandez. The injury obviously didn't help, but the LA Galaxy went out and they spent $1.4 million and they gave that precious designated player spot to a guy that was super unproven. Kevin Cabral is the definition of unproven. He has some very amazing highlights, and I'm sure he impressed whichever Galaxy scout went to France to see this kid play. But you know what? The guy's unproven. The Galaxy could have spent that $1.4 million on a guy that was perhaps a little bit older, but proven. That's the key. Proven.
That's a good point. The biggest thing that I'm so surprised about Kevin Cabral and the scouts didn't pick up is like you can tell player when he plays with his heart, right? You can tell
Yeah.
Pavone, right? Let's put it for example. Even if Pavone has a bad game, you can't be like, oh no, he didn't give it all he wanted, right? Obviously Pavone is a special case, but he was a former Galaxy player, and that's who they went with Kevin Cabral. But I think that is the biggest thing that shocked me when I see how passive sometimes Kevin Cabral is, or the lack of emotion he shows on the field. And I think that's what's been the most disappointing. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and look, you may not get goals, you may not do that, but like you got to at least show some fight and hunger, and he doesn't really show that. Alex, what are your thoughts on Cabral?
Yeah, definitely. Not blowing anybody's socks off, and I think that this is going to be a situation where you're going to have to be patient. Unfortunately, right? Like year one, we can say like, yeah, he sucked. That's a fact. We can all collectively agree on that. And then year two is going to be really really important with this guy because, like Chris mentioned, he's very unproven. League Two, wasn't even the top scorer, I think, in League Two in France. So this guy is entirely raw. You're banking on his upside a lot. You're banking on him to really, I guess, take it seriously. And I mean, that's something scouts can't really see, right? Like how you are as a person, how much passion, I guess, you take with something, right? Like, so I guess the scouts didn't know that Cabral would be such a passive person because, I think that's what he is. He's very passive. I don't see much emotion from him, like Gio mentioned. Even when he's coming off, sometimes like he kind of just accepts it, walks to his spot on the bench, and that's it. You don't see him look disappointed in his performance. You don't see him, getting mad or like not mad, but when players are in the zone, they kind of get frustrated that they're being subbed. You don't see that from Cabral.
He's too casual.
Yeah, way too
definitely
casual.
that. And
Way
so
too
year two is
casual.
going to be extremely important to see how he grinds to get to that next level in MLS, because we all agree Chicharito was horrible last year. And then this past offseason really revamped himself, his mindset, mentality, everything coming into the season, and it paid off. So I guess now the only thing as Galaxy fans you can kind of hope for is that Cabral takes notes off of Chicharito, and
Yep.
that's the kind of production you
So-
see next year.
I
Yep,
think
yeah,
with
I would agree with
Cabral,
that.
it's a mental thing. It's psychological, right?
I feel like he's not. Sorry, I feel like he's
Yeah,
not that mature though. But go ahead. But
that's what it is.
he's still like trying to like he has obviously Chicharito. He has all these
Yeah,
other older players, but it's like, dude, like obviously like I'm assuming their teammates are having these conversations, but I don't know how well they can connect because
that's
somewhat of
exactly
a
what it
language
is.
barrier. You know.
It's if you read his body language, he comes off as a guy that you know what, I'm too good for this. I'm too big for this. He seems like
I
a
don't
guy
know. I
that
don't know if comes off that way. He comes out because
there's a
he's
total
not
lack of effort on his part.
There is. I don't know if he feels he's too big because he hasn't proven it. To me, it
Right.
doesn't. He doesn't. He's not
See,
posting. He doesn't come off that way. But I think to me, it's more of the it's more
for a young
casual.
guy
It's
that's
more.
coming
It's too
from
casual.
Europe, I think he underestimated MLS by a
100%.
lot.
Everybody does.
I think he thought that, listen, I'm a guy that's coming from France. I've played in Europe. I'm coming to this inferior league. I'm young. I'm going to just walk the ball into the net and I'm going to score 15 goals this season and provide 15 assists. That's not the case. MLS is a very competitive league. He still hasn't caught on. He's not a professional. Mentally, he's not a professional. He's not mature enough to be there yet. I don't doubt that he has the skills. Whatever the scouts saw in France impressed them enough to give this guy $1.4 million this season, right? But they didn't account for the mentality, which is just a complete lack of maturity on his end. It just seems like he doesn't take MLS serious enough. Listen, 4 goals this entire season for what we're going to pay him is going to be about $350,000 per goal. We just paid this guy $350,000 per goal. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Yeah, look, it's a 5-year deal too, so it's you gotta write it out. And I think to me, it's like, I mean, Alex made a great point. Obviously, Chicharito, because look, Chris, at the start of the year, what would we talk about? We're like, I said if Chicharito scores 15 goals this season, it'd be a solid year for him, right? He can still do that with 6 games left, and I think he will catch up to 15 goals, right?
Yeah.
Now, if he didn't miss 10 games, I'm pretty sure he would have broke it by now. So I feel like,
for sure,
without the injury or anything like that, I think Chicharito has turned his image around of the LA Galaxy. He shows he cares. He's posted about the team. Like, you can't doubt Chicharito, right? You can't, obviously, then coming back right now. Well, obviously, he missed against RSL, but I don't think what I'm saying, you can't doubt his heart. You can't doubt that he doesn't care about this team.
Right. I doubt his position in the team. I doubt that.
What do you mean by that?
So the type of player that he is, he's not the guy that's going to dance the ball and weave through defenders to score goals.
Yeah, but
he's the guy.
Already knew that,
he's the guy that. Right. So here's what I'm saying.
That's not a secret.
He's the guy that relies on 10 other players to create that play for him and get the ball to him, right?
Yeah, but Greg Vandy
this team had that element of surprise at the start of the season. There was a new coaching staff. The rest of the league didn't know what we were going to put out. But you know what? The rest of the league caught on very quickly to what this team was putting out. And now this team is so predictable to all the other teams in MLS. They all sit down and watch footage, dude. They understand. They watch the teams play.
But how
they
is
have
that on
figured
Chicharito,
us out.
Though? That's how is that
so
on Chicharito,
so it's not on Chicharito. What I'm saying is that they've managed to shut down our offense almost completely.
Team's play style is too predictable, is what he's saying. Like I agree with Chris on this take.
Yeah.
Like I think Dejan would be a lot better of a player than Chicharito.
That does not mean that that's on Chicharito, because you know what type of play you're getting.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Exactly. We know what type of player we're getting. The rest of the league also knows what type of player he is, and they know the type of team that's behind him. So they have found it very easy to defend us now, because we are a very one-dimensional team a lot of the time. Like I said, it's passing back, pass to the sides, and then you either cross or you do the long balls. That's predictable to defend. And I've seen it firsthand when other teams play us now in about the last 3 or 4 months. And that's the reason why we're not performing. It's because teams have figured us out and they're defending us as they should.
Look, I agree with you, but my point was you couldn't doubt Chicharito's heart. But you went on this. But I agree with you on
his
that.
Heart, yeah.
I agree with you on that. I think that is so much more on the turnover. I feel like so many players turnover. You don't know, sometimes it's Grand Sir on the right side, sometimes it's Frain. I think that's so much more Cabral. That's what I'm saying. It's all that you're saying is the players aren't stepping up.
Yeah.
I would like to see Dejan and Chicharito start up top. Like when is Greg Vanny going to throw that? I know you're throwing the house, but I thought he was going to throw the house at LAFC. Yeah, you don't have someone necessarily coming off the bench or whatever. And you would have to and Cabral didn't start. I felt like it was like a perfect game to start two people up top, but instead I think he went with Efrain. I don't forget who started in place of Cabral. But I just feel like Dejan shows so much heart, and he's like he wants to be up there with Chicharito.
Right.
If you give him 80, 70, 90 minutes or whatever, I think it's going to be a different game. And you
Yeah.
talk about that play style. 4-4-2 is a different play style, and you have two up there
Mhm.
that you have to compete against 90 minutes. And that's why I'm
Right.
so because everything that you just said, I think could change. Obviously, I'm not seeing the practices, but I would like to see that of the LA Galaxy go with the 4-4-2 with two strikers up top. Um,
Yeah.
and just change it a little bit because you see how Dejan and Chicharito when they score that first goal, they score that first or Dejan got that assist on Chicharito. You see that camaraderie. There's something there, and I feel
Mhm.
like to me it comes across that they're holding. I don't think this is intentional, but I think they're holding off with their attack with not
Yeah.
starting Dejan and Chicharito when things are working 9 games to win. I think it's worth a try. Alex.
Yeah, I think you know what you say, playing to that 4-4-2. I think that's like a home run swing, right? Like that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a big change because no matter what, changing formation, you know, right now at the season, it is a big change. No matter what, it's gonna take some time to adjust to. So it's either gonna hit or it's not, or it's gonna be a swing and a miss. That's what I think it's personally gonna be because there's no striker depth as well. Because let's be honest, Ethan Zubak isn't a MLS quality striker. Aside from that as well, you're gonna have to try to how are you gonna play the midfield, right? Because you can only play two central midfielders. You're gonna take out Leggett. You're gonna want to move Ryan. You're gonna want to put in Jonah Dos Santos. How are you gonna make this work? There's no Victor Vasquez. He wouldn't be able to play at that role, and he's been the Galaxy most influential player, most important player all year, all season. You wouldn't find a
Yeah.
role for him as well. Efrain as well. You know, Grancier Cabral. That whole dynamic there. So I think it's a risky move. It's a high risk, high reward if you want to play Dejan and Chicharo because we all know it's gonna work. But the thing is, how is it gonna work with the other players around him? And that's
Well,
where
that's the
I
big.
have problems.
It blows my
That's the biggest
mind.
thing. That look when you haven't won in 9 games,
Yeah.
and you're going down. I'm not saying you have to get rid of what you've been working, but what you've been doing for 9 games, and you guys talking about how predictable the Galaxy are, right? Um, I think it's worth a try. Yeah, the midfield is the biggest thing. Who's going to play, right? That's the biggest
Mhm.
question. We can figure out the back line. That's not hard, right? The midfield is the biggest question, right? Obviously, you would want Ryan in there. And is it Efrain in the middle? Is it Leggett in the middle? Or you have Efrain outside and Grand Sur on the side? There's no way you're paying Kevin Cabral if you're starting Dejan with Chicharito, right? So
Mhm.
I would say either Grand Sur, Efrain on the right side, which we've seen in the past. Now it'd be Ryan and another midfielder. Is it Victor Vasquez? Like you
That's the
said,
question. That's the most important question.
that's the most important question, right? Is it going to be Leggett? Is it going to be Jonah Dos Santos? Is like the two in the middle is going to be the tricky part. But you know, if you I wouldn't mind Jonah Dos Santos and Ryan in the middle,
So
and then you figure it out with the subs. But I feel like if they don't win or they don't get a positive result, I feel like it's worth a try.
this coaching staff, this coaching staff is playing players because of their salary. To be honest with you, there's no reason why in my head you would play Victor Vasquez as a striker in that fourth in that.
That's what I'm saying.
Why you would play Victor Vasquez as a striker and leave Dejan on the bench. This is a guy who last season in all competitions in the Austrian Bundesliga, Dejan all season long, last season, all competitions in the Austrian Bundesliga, which is a highly competitive, high class European league. This is a guy who scored 18 goals in all competitions at his age. 18 goals. This is a guy who has come to MLS and first game provided an assist, has proven that he can score goals in big games, and yet he's on the bench. And Greg Vanny is starting in some games Victor Vasquez as that second striker.
I don't know if they're playing him off the money because he benched Kevin Cabral, who pays 1.4. So that to me tells me
it took a long time to do that. It took a long time to bench Kevin Cabral.
it takes a while to bench a DP player that you want to work. It's not
That's
easy.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not easy to
Yeah.
bench a Kevin Cabral to be like, okay, you haven't done anything. Typically, is what I've seen from coaches is like let
Right.
him play through it, and then when he's not showing heart, now I'm really surprised Kevin Cabral did not even play either, not just get benched, but just not even play. But
Yeah.
it was interesting. But we'll have to see what happens this Saturday, excuse me, against the Timbers. Um, Obviously, would you be okay? Obviously, you know that you want the team to get the dub, right? But what do you see the outcome could be? Because this international break could have helped. The only player that went is Jonah Dos Santos, and he hasn't played yet. I don't think he played. I think he might have played against Canada. I don't.
No,
I
he
don't
wasn't
recall.
even on the roster or like the 18-man
Okay,
roster against
so
Canada
he may.
or Honduras. So he's
Okay, so
literally had he's literally had nothing to do
okay, so
besides
he
just training.
may or may not play against Costa Rica. Is that Wednesday? Is that who they play? Costa Rica, I think.
No, the U.S. plays Costa Rica.
Uh, Whoever Mexico plays. Let me pull it up on Wednesday. Um, Whoever they
I
play,
think
I
it's El
don't think
Salvador. It's El
El Salvador.
Salvador.
Oh, okay, El Salvador
Yeah.
and El Salvador. So that's gonna be an interesting game. So if Jonah Dos Santos has not played as of yet, I don't think he'll play on Wednesday unless
Right.
something happens. Um, so you're gonna have all your players back, rested. Except him, legit as starters, I guess you would say. I think Ryan also played as well. Well, I
Yeah,
guess
for Madagascar, and so did
you'll
Nico on the weekend for Finland.
man, Nico.
And Danny Acosta did play, but then again, he's not on
Yeah.
the main Galaxy teams
So
on
three
G2.
players, right? But out of really realistically legit and legit, well, legit, Nico and Ryan are the three guys that I guess have gotten playing time. Three players is not it's not bad, but I think obviously we know all these defensive issues, but I think when we look at the Timbers, you got to get. I think if Galaxy want to really make the playoffs, they got to get a win. I know it's not possible. It's not looking optimistic, but they got to get a win somehow. How do you feel the game against Timbers will go this Saturday, Chris?
I think that the best we can hope for is a point. To be honest, the Portland Timbers are on fire right now. They're a hot team. They're a hot team, and they're fighting hard for a better position in the playoffs. They've been a powerhouse team for several seasons in MLS, and right now we're trending downwards. So I can definitely see them beating us at home. The Galaxy's proven that this it's not unusual for them to lose at home this season. I can see it happening. So
Yeah.
maybe a point.
Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to go same thing with Chris. You know, the Portland Timbers just have MLS experience. That entire team, they know what it takes to win in
Mhm.
this league, and the Galaxy really don't have that. Most of these players are new. I think the best the Galaxy can do is a point, and I'd honestly be shocked if they were able to get a win against Portland. They have Diego Valeri coming off the bench, so even if things aren't just shooting on all cylinders for Portland, they're gonna have a quality player coming off their bench, and that's going to be a problem for the Galaxy. So I realistically can see a loss happening, and best case scenario is definitely a win. I mean, excuse me, a tie.
Yeah, it's look the way they've shown these last 9 games. It doesn't look like you wanna hope for the best, but we'll see what happens against the Timbers on Saturday. It's gonna be at 7:30 at Dignity Health Sports Park. So definitely try to get some tickets there. It's gonna be a great game, nevertheless. But guys, that's gonna wrap things up for today. I want to give thanks to Chris and Alex for tuning in. Go Dodgers! We're rocking our Dodgers gear. I know Alex is rocking his Dodgers gear. And Chris got his Dodger socks on. He just can't show them right now.
The Dodger underwear, just you can't
Oh
see below
God,
the
he
waist.
went there. He went there. He went there. Well, look, thank you guys, everybody in the chat, everybody in the comments. If you haven't already, please give us a subscription on YouTube. Trying to grow the YouTube channel, so I'd appreciate if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Would really appreciate that. So that's gonna wrap things up for Chris and Alex. This is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.